welcome Hoosier fans to another victorious episode of the Assembly Call, as tonight your Indiana Hoosiers went on the road and won by double digits in the barn, 68-56, in a game that Trayce Jackson-Davis had more shots by the first media timeout than he did the entire game against Michigan, and he was really the story throughout, dominating the game with 27 points and 16 rebounds in 35 minutes of action for IU. And it was an impressive victory for IU, not just because they won on the road, which we have certainly not been accustomed to, but because they dug themselves an early hole, got down by 10 points, and managed to come back, whittled away at the lead, got it down to about 3 at halftime, I believe, and then early in the second half managed to take the lead, and I don't believe they ever relinquished it once they got it back. It was still a few tense moments to sweat it out, but they pushed the lead. They pushed the lead up to double digits by the time that the game was over, and a really key win for IU's NCAA tournament hopes, and certainly a key win for the confidence of this team. I'm your host, Andy Bottoms, here with Ryan Phillips and the coach, Brian Tonsoni, and we'll break it all down for you on this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. And with that, let's start our show the way we start every show, which is I'm actually going to kick it to one of the guys first. I'm hearing there's some audio issues with me, so Ryan, I'm going to let you rant first while I try to see if I can figure out what's going on here, and then we'll loop back to the banner moment shortly thereafter. All right, go ahead, Ryan.
Look,
what's your rant for tonight?
Yeah, Trayce Jackson-Davis just dominated this game. I mean, that was what you expect when you recruit a guy like Trayce Jackson-Davis, and he's been great all year in general. This was sort of his masterpiece. 27, especially after a down game, and we talked about it on again after the Michigan game that, you know what, he's a freshman, he's going to have some off games. That's just, every freshman goes through that. Even great players go through that, and to only get 3 shots up and not play well and get tossed around on the on the boards. He came out with a purpose tonight. 27 points, 16 rebounds, 11 of 15 from the field. He was only 5 and 9 for the free throw line, but you know what? Tonight I'll take that, given what he did the rest of the way. So career highs in points and rebounds. The dude is just awesome. He is so good, and when he gets a mind to attack, and when he gets a mind to be aggressive, I mean, you can't stop him. And there are very few people in this league who can match up with him. And tonight, he saw the opportunity to attack and to just absolutely abuse Minnesota down low. And he did it repeatedly. He got going early. He had 10 points real quick off the jump, but he really exploded in that second half, and he really went at it. And, man, just seeing he and Race Thompson in the post playing off each other was just fantastic. It was outstanding. And those two guys, frankly, deserve to be the starting front court. They are outstanding, and when they play together and play off each other, they dominate on the glass. They dominate, the way they play off each other when they're screening and moving and even switching. It was just such a good win for India. It was a big win for India. To go up to the Bard and win anytime is a huge deal, and to do it when they really badly needed a road win and needed a win in general is amazing. And this team in the second half buckled down and played great defense, and then let Trayce Jackson-Davis do work. And they got him the ball repeatedly and let him do work. And that's something we've been begging for all year. Just play defense and get the ball to Trayce Jackson-Davis. That's all you need to do. And they did it tonight. And that's what Archie Miller's been begging for too. And they finally did it. And he just stand back and let the guy dominate and let him play. And that's what they did. And he deserves every compliment he's going to get tonight. I'm sure he's going to get a lot on this broadcast.
All right, so I'm going to attempt to jump back in here, and hopefully this is better. In terms of the banner moment for tonight, you could run down any number of plays that Trayce made. A couple that stand out. The one where he back cut Devontae, hit him, and he hammered one down in the lane that pushed the lead up to 6, and then a sequence toward the end where he drew a charge on Daniel Oturu. Some would say it was a flop. Ryan said it was a flop. I thought Otura was lowering his shoulder a whole lot the entire game to try to establish position. So, in my eyes, good on Trayce for waiting till the right moment to actually try to take the charge. So that was a positive. And then he came back down in the very next offensive possession, hit a long jumper as the shot clock was running out, and that pushed the lead back up to 6 again. So there were moments, as I mentioned before, late in the game when Minnesota would make a little bit of a run, whittle it down. Everybody cheering for IU was just kind of waiting for the bottom to drop out, I think, if anybody was feeling like I was. And it seemed like today, different than what has happened in some of these other road scenarios, IU was able to make a play to stem the tide here and there. And Trayce was a big part of that down the stretch. So those, for me, were among the banner moments with him. There's a lot of other meaningful moments in a game like this where IU really came up big in that scenario that we'll hit on later. But it was a solid performance from him. And so our banner moment tonight, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel, a company that was founded by an IU grad and remains based in Indianapolis. They may have 60-plus different schools available on their website, but IU is their first school, and they remain huge supporters of IU athletics. But the two most important reasons to shop Home Field are, one, everything that they have is extremely comfortable. I know, as any of us would attest, anything that we've ordered from them, whether it be T-shirts, long-sleeve T-shirts, sweatshirts, everything has been incredibly soft, even after you wash it. And the uniqueness. They have logos both for IU and other schools that you really can't find anyplace else. And so you just go there. You can browse through their things. If you've exhausted all of the IU things they have on the site, which is hard to believe, there's a bunch of other schools there as well that you can pick up just with cool designs that you might order because you don't necessarily have an allegiance to the school, but just like some of the designs and the old logos that they have on those. So remember, because you're a member of the Assembly Call audience, you get a massive discount when you order at homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code Assembly20 at checkout to get 20% off your entire order. That's Assembly20 for 20% off your entire order. So go to homefieldapparel.com today and get the most unique and comfortable IU apparel anywhere. All right. Now it's time to move the ball, find the open man once again, getting back to our normal order. So, Coach, I'll throw it to you next to get your thoughts on a big road win. I know you shared some inspiring words at halftime. Perhaps the team was eagerly listening in based on the way they came out in the second half. But what were your thoughts on the game tonight?
I'll just say this, 0.836 points per possession defensively Indiana allowed tonight after the debacle at Michigan defensively. It was nice to see, and it was a big part of this win, and it's a nice win for the Hoosiers to get on the road. I'm still going to go back and say you just need to be consistent now. Enough with the up and down play and the hanging the heads, but they found it again, and they're finding it maybe quicker than they have in the past. A 3-4 game effort problem. So. I'm very pleased. To be honest with you, Andy, I think I'm a little shocked coming into tonight trying to get prepared to watch the game and do a halftime show, which I obviously wasn't prepared because I didn't have the mic plugged in. And so I just think it was a great team effort. I think everyone chipped in. Deron Davis did some nice things early to keep Indiana going when it was a 10-point deficit for the Hoosiers. I thought the energy was there, which was nice to see, and I think that again the emphasis of getting it into post. At some point, I stopped charting post feeds. We were up close to 30 post feeds on the game, and that just makes the offense. And not only that, Indiana was driving the ball with a purpose. Its guards were looking to go downhill a little bit more, and so all of that combined, this is what Indiana is capable of doing. It gives us a nice boost for resume purposes, and it's a good night to stay up late and talk Indiana hoops.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I think the way that IU really forced the ball into the post early was something that when this team has been successful over the course of the season, we've seen that emphasis be there. Because I really think that they came out, got it to Trayce. He scored maybe the first 4 or 6 points. Really were intent on getting him involved, and it's one of those things we've talked about for so long. This team has talked about, the identity has to be getting the ball inside, and then it comes and goes. And I thought that for the most part tonight, as evidenced by what you said, that you stopped charting it at a certain point, that seemed to be there. Part of that, I think, was Minnesota's defense, but I do think there was an attention to that and a consistent attention to that was different than what we've seen in some of these other games where they struggled. Not just with Trayce, but they posted Race Thompson more than I can recall them doing in other games where he's gotten minutes. Duran, I actually don't know that they posted him a lot when he was in the game. Joey had a couple post-ups. And so I do think what you said, Coach, about really force-feeding the ball inside was big. And I guess a lot of that goes back to guard play. So I would I'll throw that question to you first, Coach. Did you feel like anybody really stood out in terms of their attention to that, their focus on that from a guard perspective?
I don't know that I'm ready to give any guard any credit in this season's basketball for Indiana Hoosiers, to be honest with you. It's been rather pitiful guard play, but tonight was nice because you didn't really notice them. I'm looking at the stats now. The guards don't have to be stand out offensively. They just need to not turn the ball over.
They need to be solid, yeah.
Yeah, get the ball where it needs to be. Here's what I liked. Feeding the post on the break. They're trying to, it's hard when you have two posts sitting down there to jam it in and everyone's at the elbows and the blocks. There was a nice little feed to Race for his and one on a side pick and roll slip. They were finding creative ways to get the ball into the post, but I really like that, pushing the ball hard and feeding the post. And yes, the guards had to do that. I thought Rob got off to a real slow start, to be honest with you, and I was worried about his locked in. But then when he made the driving layup in the first half, I thought then he was pretty much locked in. But you can tell a difference, and I think I speak for all of us with how hard they move on offense, how hard they cut. We commented after the Purdue game that Purdue was a team that was cutting hard. I don't know that IU did it that well tonight, but they sure did it a lot better than in some of these lopsided losses. They were moving with a purpose, and that opens up the post too. So, yeah, let's give credit to the guards. We've been hard on them. We'll continue to be hard on them. Finney had 6 assists, and Durham had 4. And even Devontae threw a good pass on a back cut. So, kudos to the guards for having a solid night.
Yeah, I'll say this about the guards. Al Durham, I thought, played another game with a lot of good effort. He got beat on defense some off the dribble. That's going to happen to him. That just is his thing. And hopefully he can work on his, being his lateral quickness and his footwork in the offseason to get better, so he doesn't get driven by so quickly defensively. But I thought he had good effort all night. I thought he was cutting. I thought he was looking to the post. He wound up with 4 assists and no turnovers, only 7 points, but he made two big free throws late when he was gifted 2 free throws when he fell down and traveled, and really lucked out to get a call on Carr there. I thought Finney, 6 points, but he didn't overshoot it. He was 2 of 4. I didn't mind the 3-pointer he took and missed. And then he had 3 turnovers, but most of those were early, at least as I remember them. And he wound up with 6 assists. And I thought that he ran the team well. And I thought defensively he did a pretty good job, especially in the second half, of fighting through those ball screens and getting to his man and not letting, giving up drives to the hoop. I think that those 2 guys can build on what they've been doing over the last couple of weeks. And Finney's had games where he's been down or up or down or up. But I think that you're starting to see more good than bad, even though, he got abused on defense against Michigan, but he was also facing a really good guard. And so maybe, he can start to build some confidence off of that. And we've heard that Rob is a guy who has issues with his confidence. So you really want to see him start to build into that. Devontae Green had some nice plays tonight. He hit a couple threes that wound up being pretty big. I think that he did some Devontae Green things as well that make you shrug your shoulders. But overall, I think the guards were better than they were bad. And Finney was plus 12, Durham was plus 5, and Devontae Green was plus 3. You have to kind of be happy with that, with the way the guard play has been this year. You're kind of at least feeling more accepting of a night like that. And look, if they can be more good than bad, that's a huge win for this team. They don't have to be great. And getting a random Devontae Green 27-point night is great. And it's awesome, and you're going to need that at some point. But in general, if they can just be more good than bad and sort of, hold that even line and be a little better with what Trayce Jackson-Davis, Race Thompson, some of these post players could do, I think that's all India is going to need.
Yeah, I thought the other main storyline, especially coming in, there was a lot of question about adjustments and what Archie was and wasn't doing. I thought there was a couple things tonight that stood out in that regard. One was ball screen coverages. They played more of a flat coverage that was really designed in large part to string things out a little bit more as opposed to the hard hedge, which is really trying to get the other team going backwards. That was a change. I don't know that at times it was dramatically more effective than what we had seen, but it was different. It was at least a notion that he's seeing and the coaching staff is seeing what we have seen at times with some of the struggles there. And the other big thing was that he had a really quick hook with Joey Brunk in both halves, not unwarranted based on Joey was still struggling with that. I think he even with that different ball screen coverage struggled a little bit. And I just thought but he had a quick hook from him. He went to Duran early, really went to Race more in the second half. And I thought those were big adjustments that you saw from the coaching staff. Coach, your thoughts on the ball screen coverage and what, if any, impact that really had on how much better the defense seemed to play?
Well, I thought they changed up where they caught the ball handler coming off the screen. They still stayed. Ryan and I were texting back and forth. They still stayed long.
This time, right, Coach.
Yeah, they're catching them flat instead of putting their rear end parallel to the sideline and hoping that the ball goes back and then the defender going closer to the half-court line. What they did was they put the defenders, the ball screener's defender's rear end parallel to the baseline and then stayed with the guard as he went left and right. I'm thinking because of the lack of athleticism for some of the people in ball screen coverage, they wanted to keep them closer to the lane. It's a little closer to recover back to your man, and it's a little more congested for the guards to make passes and maybe get it to the roll guy. So he went from a hard hedge to a flat ball screen. I'm also agreeing with Ryan that sometimes they stay too long on that. If he's not going to turn the corner and penetrate the lane, you got to just let that guard get coverage back. So you
and
don't
it's a feel thing.
Out.
You got to feel that out.
And some players are better than doing it, but I think it worked tonight. I haven't watched a lot of Minnesota basketball to know if they were real dangerous on the pick and pop, and I don't have the synergy stats and all of that, or the pick and roll. But I do think that was a nice adjustment from the Michigan debacle where we were just handing them points off the screen and roll.
Yeah.
So I was happy to see that. There's only so many ways you can guard a ball screen, and you can't ice it, which is keep it on a side because that's opposite of your pack line principles. You can trap it, which is the same problem. I think this was a nice thing given what problems we've had, and kudos to probably Coach Roberts. That's why he got a technical. He was so happy about the ball screen coverage.
Yeah, I think you do have to give the coaching staff credit for adjusting. In Michigan and a few games we've seen over the last couple of weeks, offenses they figured it out, and they figured out that Joey Brunk stays too long on that high hedge, and it screws up your rotation when then your wing player has to cover the post, your wing defender has to cover the post. That leaves a wing defender, that leaves a wing guy open, or you've got an undersized wing guarding a post player. One of the two things is going to be open.
And you were right. Joey stayed too long in the new coverage too.
He did, and look, when you've been training one way for months, I'll give Joey a break on this. When you've been training one way for months, and then during a few days in practice, they say, okay, we're going to do this completely differently. It's hard. It's hard to adjust those instincts. And I've read people saying, well, Virginia used that hard hedge and won a national title. It's like, this ain't Virginia right now. We don't have the players to do that right now. They don't have, they had mobile big men who could go out and do that, who could guard all five positions. I mean, they had guys who could really go out and do that. And this team doesn't have it. And if Archie and the guys, they want to win, they got to adjust. You got to adjust to your personnel. You want to make the tournament, you got to adjust the personnel that you have. I know in an ideal world what they would like to run. This is not an ideal world with an ideal roster. So kudos Ryan, to the coaches for adjusting, and kudos to them for force-feeding the post. And after watching the film from the Michigan game and just being like, all right, we got to change this, and this if we want to win games. And at this point, you got to do that. It's the end of the season. It's crunch time. You want to win games. You got to make the adjustments.
And Ryan, I was talking to the guy that I coach with, and I'm like, what do college coaches think about changing up, their scheme? He goes, I've been to many clinics where the coaches say, if our ball screen coverage isn't working, what do? He goes, sub. A lot of college coaches are just so stubborn that this is what we do, and we're going to do it. And if player A can't do it, player B. But you're 16-9 and need some wins, and the ball screen's getting abused. There's time to build that back into the program next summer or whenever. You got to win, and winning's a lot better than running what you want to.
Sometimes you got to give in on that stuff.
Boy, it's a common thing, is what I was asking about. It doesn't make it right.
No, it's absolutely true. I mean, look, coaches get to this. The coaches that get to this level with the system, and when that system isn't working, they say it's the players, not the system. Because I've got an example of the system working, and it's like, well, that's fine. But if you want to win, you've got the players you got, and you got to make it win. And
the same thing goes for rotation too. I love Joey Brunk. I love what he's brought to the program. He's been exposed the last couple of days, whether it's personnel or scouting report. But pulling him, honoring him by keeping him in the starting lineup, you can agree or disagree, but then having a short leash on him in a game that you needed to win was probably the right thing to do.
Agreed.
And until Joey figures out what he can do to change things up, and I'm sure he will. But those are a couple situations there where I thought whoever got into Archie's ear or Archie got into his own head that this was a little better coached effort than Michigan was.
It was.
All right. Well, coming up as we continue our breakdown of IU's 68-56 win at Minnesota, we'll point out today's meaningful moment you might have missed, and then go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You're listening to the Assembly Call. Stay with us.
This is Jordan Halls, and I never miss a shot or an episode of the Assembly Call.
Thank you, Jordan. You're listening to the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. I'm Andy Bottoms here with Ryan Phillips and the coach Brian Tonsoni, and we are breaking down Indiana's 68-56 road win over Minnesota. And now it's time for tonight's meaningful moment that you might have missed. There were any number of these to really go on. There's one that we've talked about Trayce a lot. He has figured prominently in a number of these. So the one thing there was one great play. Again, I think Minnesota had gotten the lead down to 2 relatively late in the game. And there was a really good play between Race Thompson and Justin Smith. Justin made a really strong cut to the middle of the lane. Race hit him with a pass, and it pushed the lead back up to 4 at a time that things were getting tight. Everybody's getting a little worried, and things just generally were maybe a little uneasy for the team. And I think that speaks to, Race was able to do a number of different things, but I think his versatility in that situation made him really effective. I believe he was driving and made that pass to Justin, and it was just a big play to kind of push the lead from 2 players who you might not have expected to really make a big play in a game that was so dominated by Trayce. But again, I think underscores some of the great things that Race did. So no better person to kick it to than the head of the Race Thompson fan club and Mr. Ryan Phillips, to whether it was that play or anything else with Race that you want to hit on.
No, I just think it was his general game tonight. I mean, he was fantastic, and watching that, I've already had people texting me because they know I'm Mr. Race Thompson fan, and texting me and DMing me being just like, does he need to start? And I don't think it matters if he starts or not. It just matters that he plays. And 25 minutes tonight, Race could play 30. He was plus 21 tonight, which was better than anybody on the floor. He did the 10 rebounds. He had 9 points. He was driving. He had one play where he went up over a Tuuru and scored and got fouled. And I mean, I think it was a Tuuru at least. But it just fantastic. He was just fantastic all night. He's great on the boards. He's great on defense. He moves his feet. He gets guys, he gets in front of guys. He had a block too and a steal. And the guy just knows how to play basketball. He does. And a couple weeks ago, Coach Tonsoni and I were talking. We said, IU needs some dudes. Race Thompson's a dude. That's a guy who gets it done, and you're better when he's on the floor. And I think that you look at Trayce Jackson-Davis, and he's a guy, Indiana loses something when he goes to the bench. I'm starting to feel the same way about Race Thompson. I feel like that guy makes Indiana better every time he's on the floor. And I realize, he's a sophomore who, obviously his first year of playing last year was really, had gaps in it because of his injuries and all that stuff. And he's kind of got slowed by injury this year too, but that's a guy who can play, and that's a guy who needs to play a lot. I was so impressed with him tonight. I was impressed with him against Iowa. And I really think this is a guy who needs to see the floor a lot down the stretch. I mean, you can't hide him anymore. He's a guy who needs to be in there. And quite frankly, I think that the Trayce Jackson-Davis, I said in my opening, Trayce Jackson-Davis and Race Thompson, that's our best big man combo. And they're proving it over and over and over again.
And we always have our chat text messaging going on. Also nice to have Deron Davis come in and really contribute in the last few games. So you got three guys, and we all love Joey Brunk, but those three really are bringing it. But let's go back to Race Thompson. He is a dude, and we have been talking a little bit about what Archie wants. He wants to get a lot of length. He wants to get some players in that can do a variety of things. Well, Race is that guy. He can guard down low. He can go out and guard the four. He can shoot. He can do a lot of things, but the one thing that has been missing, which all of us fans and everyone, is just that all-and-out hustle. And I felt even on the games when he's been out of position defensively, I think he had a tough game at Michigan defensively. But he's young, inexperienced play of playing the game, and you learn by playing the game. You can be in practice 2 years in a row or watch, but you learn by playing the game. And so he's just starting to come into his own, and I just think he's going to be great for the rest of this year and the 2 years that he has remaining. And once you see Hunter start figuring it out as well, he only had 11 minutes tonight, but I thought he was in there and being aggressive in his play. He's got to get better to get more minutes, but there are some dudes that are currently here that are starting to say, hey, we're going to take some minutes from some other dudes, and that's what you want, that competitive competition to move Indiana better.
Yeah, I thought you brought up Jerome. He was a guy, you mentioned something earlier too about guys cutting harder. He really came in right when he came in the game, cut really hard, came off a curl. He was off balance when he took the shot, and it didn't end up looking like a very good shot. But he was really active. Had that great weak side block on Oturu, which he came out of nowhere. I don't think Oturu saw that coming at all. But I thought in the minutes he was in there, he wasn't forcing shots, but he was really, really active on both ends of the floor. Even defensively, I thought he covered a lot of ground and was really in tune with what they were trying to do. So that block early was another play that I had marked as a potential meaningful moment. Ryan, any other moments stand out to you?
Just making the free throws down the stretch was huge. I mean, and Al making those two after he, got gifted 2 free throws essentially because Carr didn't touch him. I'll take the foul. I'll absolutely take the foul call. Lord knows Indiana took some bad ones in this one, some really ticky-tack stuff, but that was not a foul. And Al, gathered himself after pretty much what should have been a turnover, stepped to the line and made 2 free throws to stretch the lead out. I think that was huge. And then Finney, got a steal, went down the floor, got fouled by Carr from behind, and made his 2 free throws. And I think that really helped stretch the game. When you're in a tight game on the road, you have opportunities to stretch it out. You have to take them, and he really took those. Then there's, of course, this isn't one you might have missed, but that Trayce Jackson dunking on the entire state of Minnesota was a real momentum changer for that game, and really, really helped carry them for a few minutes there, I thought.
Mama, there goes that man. Or what's he say on the?
You got it.
Mama, there goes that man.
You weren't going to go with the bitter beer face like Stephen?
No. That's Bardo.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, the other moment was Smith's block at the 2.5 minute, 3 minute mark or something on the fast break. That. I think everyone saw that one too. It's not a meaningful moment we missed, but what a big play. And we're hard on Justin Smith because he sometimes takes some time off inside the game. But that's a huge play. And that right there showed that this team, whatever happened in Michigan, and between those days, both the coach and the players were a little more locked in, or a lot more locked in, actually, than what they had been. And not only that, but the three or four guys that hustled back to get the rebound. Yep. The one guy who made the bad pass didn't hustle back, but we'll just leave that alone for today.
Trying to be positive here, Coach.
Yeah, we're trying to be positive, but it was a lazy pass. I about said a bad word in my coaching thing. It was a lazy pass, and it was a lazy effort getting back after the pass. But what a block. I thought that was really important. And then we do need to talk about the technical foul. I thought I saw Robert say I was telling him to get back, or I was telling him to something offensively. I don't think they were yelling at the officials. I think he slammed his board down on the floor to get the attention of Indiana's team. And I'm going to say this. I don't like officials. I think I've said that several times on the show. But I want everyone out there to know. I mean, Joel's a retired official, Cabby Green, Joel Wonder. So that's the only one that I kind of like is the retired ones. Man, I didn't think it was a poorly officiated game, but I thought they were ticky-tacky, beneficial of Minnesota early. That technical could have really changed the game, and kudos to our team not handling that adversity in a bad way. They need to be better than that. Give a warning. Make sure you know what's going on before you just flat out hit someone with the technical when it wasn't demanded. That's just not good basketball officiating. Doesn't surprise me.
Well, I felt like Patino got a lot of rope for all the conversations that he had with them, and and it was a pretty quick trigger for Roberts or whoever they were. I mean, that's what they said on the broadcast, that it was him pounding on the floor.
Pounding the floor, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? What are you going to do? All right, well, now it's time to go inside the numbers. This is an area that you guys really worked hard to avoid after the Michigan game, but I think a few noteworthy things to hit here. One of which is that IU only took 5 threes in the second half. They were 11 of 22 from 2-point range and 2 of 5 from 3. Made 12 of 15 free throws. Ryan, you talked about that a minute ago. I think they were 8 for 8. Down the stretch. And despite some stretches where they really gave up long offensive rebounds while Minnesota was hurling 3-point shots at the basket, IU did end up out-rebounding Minnesota 39-38 with Trayce and Race grabbing 26 of those rebounds. So I thought that was good. 15 assists is a really good number for this team compared to 10 turnovers.
15 on 24 made field goals, too.
Yeah, that's so for this team.
15 assists on 24 made.
Yeah, for this team, that's solid. Outscored Minnesota in the paint, outscored them off the bench. 10-0 second chance points, which is Minnesota got 13 offensive rebounds and no second chance points. So that may be a little bit fluky.
That's incredible.
Outscored them in points off turnovers with 16. The problem is that most of the rebounds they got offensively were, like I said, missed threes that they're running down, and even by the time they corral the rebound, they're 18, 20 feet from the basket. So I guess that helps a little bit. But, Coach, any other numbers as you look down the stat sheet stand out to you?
No, I think it's very important. The second half shooting was really fantastic, as you mentioned. I like that. The rebounding numbers are a little bit out of whack because, like, 2 possessions, they got 3 or 4 offensive rebounds at a time. And so that stacks up the numbers, and that's not good to have that on one possession, but it wasn't like they were just pounding the offensive glass all game. I thought there was a little bit of a stretch on that. I do like the fact that Trayce Jackson-Davis had 15 shots. I think that and Thompson had 6. So the ball went where it was supposed to. And you know, we're all trying to figure out what has been wrong with this team. And, you know, is it chemistry? Is it coaching? Is it players or whatever? Well, tonight it kind of clicked the way it was supposed to, kind of like it did in a lot of the wins. And so the question just remains, which team is it? But again, 10 turnovers is very good. I like that number. 5 blocks. How about that for a number?
And they weren't all Trayce.
No, and it was just this team seemed more active. I think the stats prove that this team was moving better, was more active than they have been on the road anytime previously. And
I think a number that stood out to me was that Minnesota was only 4 of 25 from 3. I thought Indiana did a great job recovering to shooters. And
that's a great point.
They weren't getting wide open looks. There were some times where they got it off and, you know, had a hand in their face. There were other times where they got it off, but Indiana had a guy closing, and it was at least, in the zone to make it uncomfortable. I really think you were right about the second half shooting for Indiana, 13 to 27 in the second half, 48%. Hey, if you only take 5 threes and you make 2 of them, you shoot 40%. That's way above Indiana's season average. So 2 of 5 at 3 in the second half is great for Indiana, 40%. But I agree. I agree about what Coach said about the rebounding numbers. I was surprised it was that close. But then you think back, and they got a bunch of offensive rebounds on 2 or 3 possessions that kind of sent it out of whack. And they were just long shots, giving long rebounds. And, sometimes that can't be helped. And even if you block guys out, the ball bounces over you. So I was really impressed with the way they rebounded. And I think that they really did a good job. The key for me was just the defense. And I'm not sure what the points per possession was. You mentioned it off the top, Coach. It was like 0.8.
0.836.
That was fantastic. I mean, they really knuckled down in the second half and played solid defense. And if you look at the numbers in the second half, Indiana outscored them 40 to 25. And it was obvious watching this. You could have had no score listed and just the audio off and watch the way they were engaged on defense, and you knew that was going to happen.
And Ryan, going into the game, I had read somewhere where Minnesota doesn't shoot the 3 very well. Well, the defense not only guarded the 3 well, but it forced them to take 25 threes. And then the last number that I'll throw out is Otero was 5 of 15, and he's their leading scorer at 19. He only got 11.
Yeah, they made it difficult on him all night.
Yeah, he was hard, and that was the way they guarded him. And then the other 2 guys, Kalsher only had 6, was 1 of 11. And that's Justin Smith that was assigned to him to start. So, again, sometimes you don't see Justin Smith's strengths because it's just guarding someone and running around chasing someone. And Archie has said that Justin's a really good defender. I think that 1 for 11 on Kalsher, who has hurt people in the past. And then Carr, which is the 9th leading scorer in the Big Ten, only had 12 on 3 of 9 shooting. So that just speaks again to what we both have been saying, or all have been saying, about how great the defense has been.
Yeah, Durham and
tonight,
Finney. Durham and Finney rotated on Carr, and I thought did a pretty good job on him. At least making him work for it. And there were a couple times, there was 1 or 2 times he drove right by and was able to get into the lane and get a bucket. But those opportunities are few and far between for him. You're muted, Andy.
Sorry about that.
We enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's good. Well, the other, you mentioned the Otero shooting numbers, and even in the second half, the 3-point shooting, they forced Minnesota took almost half of their shots in 3-point range. I mean, they took the shots that IU wanted them to take as opposed to the other way around. So I thought that was really, really key in the way that IU defended, and never hurts to have a team just miss a bunch of shots, which IU usually is the team that's doing that. So nice to see other people struggle every now and again. So that was a positive for sure from a statistical perspective. So with that, we'll kind of wrap that up. We're going to get ready to head to game balls. That should be among the shortest discussions that need to be had at this stage of the game. But we'll talk about the game ball next and any other lingering storylines, and then we'll have last call. Stick with us here on the Assembly Call.
This is Nick Zeisloft. I never miss an open 3, and I never miss an episode of The Assembly Call.
You're listening to the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. Catch us live and every IU basketball game, plus every Thursday night at our website, assemblycall.com. And while you're there, make sure you sign up for our free IU Hoops email newsletter. Over 7,000 of your fellow IU fans have subscribed. You can also text IU to 66866 to subscribe to the newsletter. That's IU to 66866. I'm Andy Bottoms here with Ryan Phillips and the coach Brian Tonsoni, and we are breaking down Indiana's 68-56 victory over Minnesota. And now it's time for game balls, which, as I said earlier, will be among the quickest discussions that we will need to have over the course of the season. So I'll go ahead and say I'm going to give mine to Trayce. I'm going to really go out on a limb and give it to the guy who dominated the game and had 27 points and 16 rebounds. Although I will say,
brave.
One stat that we did not mention: Race was plus 21 overall for the game. So, certainly he would be
in 25 minutes.
Yeah,
He was
not bad. So I think he'd be the second in line and the honorable mention guy. But Trayce feels like the obvious choice. Ryan, I assume you concur, but I'll give you a chance just in case.
Yeah, I'm going with Trayce Jackson-Davis. 27 points, 16 rebounds, 2 blocks, 11 to 15 shooting. Was just a presence all night on both ends, and really just a fantastic performance. It's his best game as a collegian, I think, easily. And yeah, I would give the honorable mention to Race Thompson for 9 points and 10 boards, a block and a steal, and that plus 21 in 25 minutes. But Trayce also played 35 minutes tonight, man. I mean, that's a freshman really putting it all on the line. And, he was rewarded for hard work on positioning. I think that was the big thing, is that he got down the floor quickly, got good position, and his teammates had to give him the ball. He was in a position where they couldn't not give him the ball. And but I thought he worked real hard on both ends, and he deserves all the accolades he'll get from this one.
Yeah, I'm going the same as you guys. It's you kind of want to give it to Race Thompson because he almost had a double-double, and I thought he was really influential. Obviously, Trayce Jackson-Davis is the main reason Indiana was able to win tonight. But without Race's efforts, I don't know if it was as easy as it was down the stretch. So, but the thing about Trayce Jackson-Davis too, freshmen hit the freshman wall too. It's hard to put the team on the back of a freshman sometimes because it's just different than the high school game, even though they're used to playing AAU and doing that. I thought Race the last 3 or 4 games might have looked a little tired mentally and physically. He wasn't that way tonight. He was absolutely dominant tonight. And as Ryan said, you can tell that by when he gets position. He wasn't standing straight up calling for the ball. He was really getting low. He was quick spinning to get to the basket. And he really was moving well within the post. And that's just good to see because you're going to need him down the stretch to win some key games to get into the tournament. So, yep, Trayce Jackson-Davis gets the game ball. Thanks. I'd like to see Race Thompson play a lot of minutes going forward. I think we're all in agreement on that, and thank goodness a mini game ball to the guards for not messing up tonight and doing some decent things.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that lingers coming out of this game, and we'll talk more about this on Assembly Call Radio tomorrow night. We probably won't do a ton of previewing of Penn State at this point, but the questions essentially are what you said, Coach, is how many minutes does Race get going forward? Does the rotation that we saw late in the game and really for the majority of the second half, is that what really carries forward, where you had the 3 guards? Armand played a little bit. I didn't think he played poorly necessarily. Did a good job. He's really intent on feeding the post as much as anybody. So I think in that regard, he played fairly well, but you really saw the majority of the minutes go to the 3 guards. You saw Race and Trayce on the floor a lot. Joey in some spot minutes. Duran, I don't think played very much at all in the second half, but did give a few minutes of rest, and then Jerome sprinkled in a little bit. So do we think this is really the turning point of now the balance of some of those front court minutes really get tipped more in the scale of Race? Or is this a one-game deal where you don't really know what's going to happen moving forward? I think everybody looks at this game and probably some others and would suggest that needs to happen or needed to happen earlier. But do we really think this is the turning point for that kind of lineup and rotational shift? Coach, I'll let you take that first.
I think, yeah, I don't know that you'll see a whole lot of difference in maybe the starting lineup, but I do think I would encourage Archie to play the guys that are playing well and think about some additional minutes. And again, I hats off to Joey Brunk and looking forward to the show on the journey or that tonight, which is featuring him and the issues that he's had to face as a young man. So, with all due respect to Joey, he's got to get back into some minutes, and you do that by practicing hard and doing the right things, and when his time calls, playing well. But I do think Race needs to play some of his minutes. and I think Duran has earned some of the minutes as well with his play. So I would like to see a similar game plan as tonight, where there wasn't wholesale changes, but it did seem like you went with the players who were playing a little bit better at the time, and I just think that has to happen and be a part of the plan going forward.
Yeah, I just think that I agree with you, Coach. I think that and I know Jerome Hunter hasn't been great the last two games, but I think that's a guy you're going to need going down the stretch too, whether he's just having kind of a freshman lull here or not. I think that Race and Hunter are going to have to start eating into the minutes of guys like Brunk and Justin Smith. And I just think that I thought Justin played pretty well defensively tonight, and I thought he played well defensively against Iowa, but at some point you got to find somebody to reduce their minutes, and maybe reducing Justin's minutes makes him a little more of a focused, effective player. I think you got to hope for that. But I think that honestly, you're going to need those young guys down the stretch, and you got to find ways to get them on the floor. And I agree. I think Deron Davis, when he's been in there, has been better tonight. He didn't really get going tonight and had some foul issues early. But that's a guy we know can score in the Big Ten, and we know can body up against guys in the Big Ten. And it's also 5 more fouls you can use if the opponent has a good big man like an Otero tonight.
All right. Well, with that, you're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. Remember that because you're an Assembly Call listener, you get 20% off of your entire order at homefieldapparel.com with the promo code Assembly20. So if you want a great deal on the most comfortable and unique IU apparel that you'll find anywhere, go to homefieldapparel.com and use the promo code Assembly20 for 20% off your entire order. All right, guys, it's time for a last call. It's late here. My audio apparently has been poor, so I think those are both signs to
understatement.
To wrap it up. So I apologize to everybody about that. I have no idea what's going on. Felt like my internet connection was actually better than normal, and so of course something else goes wrong. So fitting for this season, where anything that can go wrong does go wrong. Ryan, I'll kick it to you first.
All right. I just think it was a huge win for Indiana to get another road win, to beat a conference team on the road and play the way they did, which is the way they want to play. They want to play tough defense. They want to win through the post. They want to win, be able to finish the game off at the free throw line, 16-22, 12-15 in the second half of the free throw line. Got there, were able to convert, and played solid, really good defense throughout the second half and really finished the game off. They've had problems in the second half of road games, just wilting and falling apart, and that did not happen tonight. I wrote on Twitter that, hey, they've wilted in the second half repeatedly. That needs to change, and they didn't. They stepped up in the second half, and kudos to Trayce Jackson-Davis for what's probably going to be another Big Ten Freshman of the Week award. That kid is absolute nails, and he's everything you could want in a freshman. So big time performance from him, big time performance from Race Thompson. Hopefully they can continue to build on it. And kudos to the guards, as Coach said, for not sort of screwing it up and getting those guys the ball when they needed to, and just playing a solid game of basketball, which is really all Indiana needs from those guys, is a solid game.
I'll go ahead and take my last call, Andy. Yeah, just nice. It's nice as a fan. We're frustrated to watch some of the ways that Indiana has lost games on the road, and we really want Indiana to get back to that tournament, and where it's right there close to. And so I feel the frustration of everyone, but it's really nice to see an almost complete effort tonight on both sides of the ball, especially in the second half, and to put a team away late and not even have a situation where you have press and turnovers. To be able to separate there the last 3 minutes should show this team that they're capable, when focused, when locked in, when playing together, that they can beat a lot of teams. This team is not uber talented, but it can squeeze the most out of its talent if it plays like it did today, locked in on a scouting report, locked in on each other, doing the right things, getting the ball to the right people, and not worrying about personal accolades or whatever has been bothering this team. And so the blueprint is there. It's Iowa. It's at Minnesota, and it's not at Michigan. So now it's up to everyone, the coaching staff and the players, to decide if they're just satisfied and are going to go fluctuate back and forth from the two performances, or are they going to steady this thing out and have a good 5-game run here to end the season and a Big Ten tournament and hopefully an NCAA tournament, because I'm sure darn tired. I was worried about going on the show tonight, saying the same things over and over again and arguing whether it's the player's fault, Archie's fault, or Don Fisher's. No, it's never Don Fisher's fault. But, this is what needs to happen, guys, and let's just keep going forward. And you're not going to win every time you play well. But if you play well more times than not, good things happen, and hopefully the lesson is finally learned. Just a proud moment as a fan, because this was a lot better than what I thought we were going to be talking about late on a Wednesday night.
Yeah, and I'll be brief. From a bracketology standpoint, definitely a huge win for IU to get another road win, to get just another win, period, at this point, as some had them careening outside of the field. I did not yet. I don't think Coach and the Delphi guys did either, but from that perspective, a really big win, hopefully a confidence boost. Now you get yourself in a position where you're going back home, and I think if you set out at the beginning of the week and said split these road games, you'd feel relatively good about it, and maybe the way that you got there was a little bit different, pretty varied results and performances in the two, but I think the net result of what happened is a positive one for this team moving forward. So with anything, if this part of the season has taught us anything, it's that you can't really read too much into game two from or into one game from the next, but we'll see what happens as we go from there. But with that, that'll do it for this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/assemblycall. And don't forget to go to assemblycall.com or text IU to 66866 to join our free email newsletter. Special thanks to longtime listener Bob Thompson, who produced much of the music you hear on the show. And thank you for listening. We'll be back to talk IU Hoops again with you on Thursday night. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Thank everybody for coming out.
All right, I got to get out of here, folks. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to...
Way to fight through, Andy. Good job, man.
Well, sorry, because I can't hear how bad it is. So apologies to everybody if it was terrible. I do not know what it was, and felt like eventually we had a point that...
We may just need to get you in.
If we stopped, I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. So I don't know. I tried taking it out of the mic stand. I plugged it in, unplugged it 15 different times. I don't know. So anyway, we'll see. I'm sure it'll be fine tomorrow. I'm sure it'll be fine tomorrow night when it doesn't matter.
Are you hosting or no?
I'm not.
Oh no,
so,
you're not.
So
you're
it'll.
Not on
so
tonight.
No, I think I am. I think Coach isn't. But
because I think this happened before once when you were hosting. It didn't do the scrambling thing that it did a few times tonight, but it popped. Yeah. And for some reason we plugged it in and whatever, and it it only happened when you were hosting though.
Someone in the chat said maybe it's an overloaded sound card, which
that might be true.
Doesn't meet with all the stuff that you have to have.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know anything about a computer other than I didn't even know where to plug the mic in today for the halftime show.
Yeah, it happens.
5 minutes without a mic.
A note from Zach Osterman, Minnesota hit 9 of its first 11 shots and went 12 of 51 after that. So that's Indiana picking up its defense.
There you go.
So good for them.
Absolutely.
Big win. Big win.
Absolutely. All right, well, I'm gonna wrap it up here, and I'm gonna try to do this. I may text Jared, see if he actually wants to post it or not, if it's that bad. So we'll see. I'll get that all figured out. There's some processing that has to take place after that. So appreciate you guys shouldering a little bit more of the load and putting up with it. So
of course, man.
We'll talk to you guys tomorrow night.
Later, guys.
All righty, we'll see you.